What's up, everybody? I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth, and today we're in the 2020 Mazda 3.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a full interior review here. This is the premium trim, so it's the top trim. This is also the all-wheel drive version for what it's worth. I do have a driving review that I'll be posting. You can go watch that if you want to hear all my thoughts on our week of driving around here in the Mazda 3. But as far as the interior here goes, this was totally new for the 2019 model year. 2020 is basically the same, aside from some of the safety tech being standard now. And it still is a very expensive feeling interior for the class. You have to keep in mind, this is competing with the Toyota Corolla, the Honda Civic, Subaru Impreza. That's the kind of stuff you're competing with here. And when you compare this interior to those, I mean, the niceness of everything in here just blows those out of the water. I mean, you have metal on many surfaces here. You have Bose stereo system with metal speakers. You have leather wrapping for the steering wheel.
And a lot of padded seats. Leather, too.
Yeah, like, I mean, down by the transmission tunnel area here, I mean, that's padded. None of the competition has padding here. And honestly, there's cars that are double this price that don't have padding down here, and this does. So honestly, this interior even feels a little more premium than stuff like an Audi A3 of the current generation. It's not as nice as like an A-Class from Mercedes or something, so it's not full-blown luxury level. You know, maybe this is better than some of the Acuras and some of the Lexus stuff possibly in this price segment, but it's very competitive with that kind of stuff, not the Civics and the Corollas like it's priced similarly to. So it's really punching above its weight class in many ways. But yeah, first thing, sitting down in these seats, they're super comfortable here in the premium trim. They're actual leather. If you go for the lower trims, they're leatherette, and the base trim you get cloth.
The bolstering is pretty nice.
Yeah, they're really, pretty sporty seats while still being comfortable, so they don't feel overkill as far as sportiness. They're heated seats as well here. Unfortunately, there's no way to get cooled seats, but most of the competition doesn't offer cooled seats aside from like Kia does in the Forte and a few others, but that's a pretty rare option. And so having the heating is fine and, par for the course. And they feel great, and adjustments are pretty easy and stuff. They're power on my side.
My side's manual, but that's okay.
Yeah, and they're easy to adjust there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good seats. The steering wheel is also really nice. I love the design of this steering wheel. It's, like I said, leather wrapped. Has a great 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches. Real nice metal that has a good substantial weight to it. Mazda really obsesses over the details in their interiors, especially. Like, all the buttons have a very satisfying feel to them, and they analyze this stuff. Like, they do studies on like how a button press should feel. Like, and it's really impressive how much they obsess over the details, and you can tell that with this interior. And so just a really attractive and nice feeling wheel. You also have paddle shifters here on the back. This is also something you only get on the premium trim. Lower trims do not get paddle shifters, which is nice if you're in a sporty mood and you want to use them, but you can still manually shift down here at the shifter if you'd like. Most people never manually shift, so probably something not even worth bothering with, but nice to have nonetheless. The gauges are also really nice here in the Mazda 3. It's this new font that they have for these newer gauges that I really think looks expensive and kind of premium. You also have a digital portion there in the middle, which doesn't give you a lot of customization. Like a lot of the other competitors will give you like your audio information in there and other things. This basically just tells you your fuel economy and your whole lane keep assist and that kind of stuff in the middle there, and that's it. And Mazda did that deliberately. In their presentations, they've said that they don't want people to be distracted, and so they want to only have driving information in the driver's area. And I can understand the sentiment, but it just is kind of nice, so you don't have to look over here at the screen to just have it pop up in your gauge cluster whenever a new song comes on or something. But other things, you do have a heads-up display here. That's something also only in this top premium trim. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, right up top you have this very nice widescreen display, but it's not a touchscreen. So Mazda is fighting this whole trend that other car companies are just all doing touchscreens these days. This screen is not touch, and it's very far away and really close to the windshield here.
Yeah, it is like super far. It's definitely tilted towards the driver too, which is, it's not the biggest tilt in the world, but it's still just not very passenger friendly, I would say.
Yeah, and there's no reason for it to be tilted towards the driver aside from giving it this cool aesthetic, I guess. But yeah, you know, I think it wouldn't be hard to just make it, you know, flush with the dashboard, have everything be the same angle. But they're trying to mix it up, I guess. But it's, anyway, the screen here is not the easiest to use. That's the thing. So you have to use this controller since it's not touch. And so this controller, I mean, it feels nice. The materials on it and everything are very nice. You have this metal and this high quality feeling plastic. But it's just that everything is buried in sub menus because they wanted to make it not as distracting by only giving you 5 to 7 menu options for each menu. So that means it's very simple, but it means there's lots of clicking around. So like to change the radio station, I have to go into entertainment, and then I have to hit the menu thing, and then I have to go down to channel list, hit that, and then go to whatever channel I want to go to, hit it again, and then you're there. So instead of just one tap or one spin of a tune knob, you now have to do 4 or 5 button presses. And so that's the thing that to me makes it more distracting.
Yeah, and also to change the channel and do the volume, you have this little knob here, and while that's fine and good, it's still very confusing if you're using the wrong amount of pressure. If you use too much pressure, you have a chance of turning up the volume way loud instead of changing your channel. So it's just confusing, and I think it adds a whole nother level of distraction to a driver. So I don't know. Yeah,
and I mean, you do have the volume and tune buttons here on the steering wheel as well. So, you know, for the driver, that's fine, but for the passenger, you know, it just makes it a little more complicated. You do also have this favorites button, which Mazda and owners of Mazdas really love, because they say you program all that in, and then you just hit the favorites button and you have all the stuff you need there, which is true. So, you know, if you want to go and program all those, then that is an easier way to hop around, but there are still times where you are going to want to change the source, or you're going to want to do something different. And so I just wish it was a little easier to use. It is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capable if you go for any model other than the base one. The base one, they lock you out of it for some strange reason. But all the other models do have that integration. But again, that's unnatural because you can't use touch, and you're using an interface that Apple or Android have designed for touch. So instead, you're spinning a knob again to go to all the different icons and stuff on your smartphone interface there. So I appreciate that you want to limit distractions and stuff, but I think that it actually makes it more distracting in practice. But that's just our personal experience here from a week with this. And I had a week with a hatchback last year as well, and it was the same thing with that. So.
Right.
Not a huge fan of that. But anyway, one nice thing about this whole setup, though, is that you have this Bose center point stereo system, and it's 12 speakers, and I think it's the best sounding stereo outside of the high-end luxury stuff. Like the Bowers & Wilkins stereo and the Volvos is probably better, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But this is one of the best stereos under $100,000, honestly, along with that Volvo system. It is just so crisp and clear. They have a really cool design where you don't have any speakers in the lower part of the door where you usually have bass drivers in other vehicles. Instead, those bass drivers are actually by your footwell, and so that means that you can have really crisp bass, and you don't get all that vibration you usually get with bass in other vehicles. And so it means that it is just this really clear system, and it allows them to tune it so that you can have really crisp vocals and yet still have really strong bass, and it's just like an amazing combination.
Yeah, on the highway it was really nice. You didn't have to turn it up way loud because you heard outside noise or anything. I think it was really nice.
Yeah, like she mentioned though, on the highway, because the Mazda 3 is so well insulated and such a refined vehicle that again feels like you're driving a luxury car, having that combined with this stereo, that means this stereo can really shine because it doesn't have to overpower all this road noise and tire noise because it's already a very quiet interior. And so it's, again, they just knocked it out of the park as far as that goes. But anyway, coming down to the climate controls here, that's another area that feels like a luxury car. These nice metal knurled knobs here that just are very high quality, have a good resistance to them. Little screen there, nice and simple, easy to control that.
I'm not really in love with this dashboard because it does kind of jut out a little bit, and maybe a little bit too much, making this cabin seem a little bit claustrophobic. It's not terrible, but it's just not really my style. Other people may love it, but I just am not crazy about it. Also, one thing, if I were to move these air vents up, it would just go straight into the dashboard and not go up towards me. So that is one thing that I noticed. Yeah, like blocks
your airflow a little bit. So
yeah.
It's kind of a strange setup there. And she's not the only one either. Even my sister hates this interior design. She owns the previous gen Mazda 3. So again, styling is a very subjective thing, even interior styling. So some people might love it, some people might hate it. I think it looks very upmarket and very expensive. I think they're trying to, make it look like the luxury cars. But I think, yeah, it's a little odd. Personally, I don't mind it, but clearly two people that you
maybe,
and her, like,
I don't know. Maybe
like
if it was a different color or something, it would be less visible. Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to the storage spaces here in the Mazda 3. So you have this nice big bin right under the climate control, and you also have a USB jack in this area as well. But it's nicely rubberized and a good space there, nice and large. You also have two cup holders here.
They are good cup holders, but I don't think if you were to have two large drinks in there, if they would really fit, because the dashboard does start kind of jutting out at a point where if you're having like a huge drink and a straw and stuff like that, it might not fit super well.
Yeah, really tall stuff, you might run into an issue, but there's bottle holders in the doors and also these other extra pockets, so it's a very large pocket here in the door. We have the center armrest, which is nice and softly padded.
But a strange thing is that you can't just click it open. You have to pull it back first and then open it. And whereas that's okay, I think it's just another thing to slightly distract you and confuse you, because if you're just trying to quickly grab something, you can't quickly grab it by just pulling it open. You have to do a two-step process, which in all reality isn't that great to do a two-step process for something.
For anything, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, everything should be a one-step easy process. Like, there's so much in this car that's a learning curve. You have to learn this infotainment system. Like, the first time she tried to change the radio station, she's like, I don't even know how to do this.
Yeah, I don't.
And in any other car that we're in, it's just like, it's very intuitive. You have a tune knob, you have touchscreen, it makes sense. Same thing with this. You want to open up a bin, you lift it up. This, you try and lift it up and it doesn't work. It's just like, supposedly Mazda said this is easier on your shoulder or something. At least with my shoulder, it actually strains it more to go all the way back here and then up. This is really uncomfortable to do versus having something here that I could just lift up. So
yeah, and I'm sure if your seat was pushed forward too, like, that would be way harder as well for somebody shorter to do that.
That's
because
a good point, yeah.
Their arm probably can't go back that far.
Yeah, I mean, if I were up here closer and I had to go that would really be a reach. That is just, so again, just weird things that Mazda's trying to help, but I think it hurts in the long run, personally. There's also a wireless charging pad there as an option if you'd like. I think it's like a $245 option to add. There's also a power outlet and a USB jack in there, so good to have those as well. And it's a good space in there. It's just getting in there is just a little bit annoying. So just, again, quirky things here at the Mazda. Backseat in the Mazda 3 here is a cozy back seat, so I would say it is definitely a little less space than what you get with some of the competition. I think the Civic and the Corolla these days has a roomier back seat, possibly even the Impreza, although I have not been in the back of an Impreza in a long time. But so I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself. I have about 2 inches of legroom to spare, so I do fit comfortably. I still have a couple inches of headroom as well, so it's not cramped really, but I just think anyone that's maybe 6 feet or taller, you might start to get a little bit of a tighter feeling back there. As far as, storage stuff goes, you do have a fold down center armrest with 2 cup holders built into it, and you have bottle holders in the doors, but that's it. So this doesn't have any kind of air vents or USB jacks or anything in the back here, and that's not super common in this class, but there are some others that do offer a nicer back seat. Like the Honda Civic, you can get heated rear seats in its top trim. There's no such option here, and like I said, no vents or plugs or anything like that, so not the best back seat in this segment, but they are soft, comfortable seats, so it has that going for it. Trunk space in the Mazda 3 is also really a pretty roomy trunk for this segment. I think it is still smaller than some of the competition. I think Civic and Corolla both probably have a larger trunk, but this trunk was still plenty roomy. We had a large haul of groceries that we put in the back there, and it all fit fine. And beneath the floor there, you'll see a spare tire, so nice that you still have that. And so overall, still a good sized trunk here for this class vehicle. But yes, that's all our thoughts here on the interior in the Mazda 3. definitely lots of really impressive stuff, but there's also some really odd quirks here that, can be a little bit annoying. But
it is a comfy place to be. I think it's nice.
Especially since it's so refined and so smooth and stuff. Even if there are things that are a little bit annoying, I still think this feels a lot more expensive than a Corolla or a Civic or something like that. So if you're willing to deal with the little quirks of the Mazda 3, I think it is definitely a fantastic value, probably the best value in this segment, especially if you're not going for the all-wheel drive. Like, this one is over $30,000. It's like $30,640 for this premium trim with the all-wheel drive. I think, most people, you can probably get by without all-wheel drive if you're being honest with yourself and you have snow tires. And so, a front-wheel drive one, and I would go one grade lower, so you get rid of this heads-up display and all these other expensive things. You can get a nice one that still has, the heated seats, the leatherette, most of the other stuff, the Bose stereo still, and you can get one of those with front-wheel drive for, under $26,000, like $25,740. And whenever you're talking about a vehicle around $25,000, at that point, this is a fantastic interior. I mean, even at $30,000 it holds up, but at $25,000, I mean, there is nothing that comes close to being this nice at 25 grand.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the standout thing here. But so anyway, let us know your thoughts on the Mazda 3 interior in the comments below. Be sure to go watch the driving review if you're curious to hear how our week went driving around in the Mazda 3 here. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.